Tonight on Prime Time, we revisit a political backroom moment that may have shaped rivalries still reverberating through Nigeria's power corridors. In 2007, as President Olusegun Obasanjo prepared to leave office, a discreet caucus was constituted to design his exit strategy. Around that table sat some of the most consequential figures of the era, including Nasir El-Rufai, Nuhu Ribadu, and our guest tonight, Akin Osuntokun, then political advisor to the president. According to Osuntokun, that group advanced a bold proposition, presenting El-Rufai as their preferred presidential candidate. But Obasanjo rejected the move outright, insisting instead on Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, a choice he's said to have viewed through the prism of loyalty and history, recalling his old association with Yar'Adua's brother Shehu Musa Yar'Adua. So what happened in that room? Did that rejection sow the seeds of the feud now raging between El-Rufai and Ribadu? Was it ideology, ambition, betrayal, or a clash of deferred egos? Or was there something else that took place that led to this moment? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the former political advisor to President Obasanjo and former Director General of the 2023 Labour Party Campaign Council, Akin Osuntokun. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you very much, Charles. I'm glad to be here.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, same here.
Take us back to 2007.
2006.
2006. How this caucus was convened and what exactly was its mandate?
Well, individually, we were close to the president. That was a kind of father-son relationship.
And that was President Obasanjo,
yes,
of course.
With almost all of us, were like, where we got along very well socially and, of course, politically. So when he decided, to put together an exit strategy, he then convened us into a formal caucus, 9 of us. It was chaired by the Attorney General at that time, Oju, now to kind of guide the process, make corrections and adjustments where necessary, and also to speculate on who should be successful. So he said, so there were 2 or 3 groups: the governor's group, the minister's group, forgetting the other group, from which we can source the presidential candidate.
The presidential successor, basically.
Yes.
Right.
Successor. I remember in the minister's category, he favored Adamu Bello, who was Minister of Agri. But later, the governors were a very powerful caucus, and he worked quite closely with them. So the governors, impressed on him that he should take one of them, as a candidate. So he had no problem resolving on who that should be. First, the North-South Rotation Convention had excluded the South, so it has to come from the South, from the North. And among the governors of the North, Umaru Yar'Adua was relatively more credible. He has integrity. He hardly socializes. You go to him, you go to visit him anytime after PM, you are not likely to see him. You will have made preparations for your visit to where you will sleep. And so, of course, he was a very intelligent, educated person. And of course, he had the president had a relationship with the Yar'Adua family. And he always recalled that when he was going to run the presidential primaries race in 1999, that the first governor to declare for him was Umaru Yar'Adua. That when he was discussing with Umaru Yar'Adua, said, okay, let's start from here. Katsina State, you will get Katsina State. And then from then on.
Right.
And and of course, you saw him, naturally.
Yeah, but that came later on. When your group presented El-Rufai as a preferred presidential option, how serious was that proposal? Was it exploratory, or was it a coordinated push on you guys? And we're also curious to know how Nuhu Ribadu, who was part of that group, reacted to it.
He was actually avoiding us, President Obasanjo. He suspected that we were going to come up with El-Rufai. So he always tries to, So, but we had resolved that. I mean, look.
And was that a consensus?
Yeah, almost, almost a consensus, that, but we also suspected that you may have other, but nonetheless, we said we should push this on him.
Right. And Nuhu Ribadu accepted that
Yes.
decision?
He was actually,
they were quite good friends at the time.
It was actually one of the main motivators. He and El-Rufai were like this. They were 5 and 6 years, They were quite close, and of course, being from the north, they are very high profile. And both of them were very efficient and effective public officers. Nasiru's record in the FCT and Nuhu as chairman of EFCC. They're quite close, that. So it was easy it was a done deal as far as we were concerned. But apparently the president had his own agenda.
And ultimately, he chose Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, as you said. And that decision, from your assessment, was driven more by loyalty or by calculation or by control, his capacity to control the person.
No. I didn't figure that it was a capacity to. Actually, if you were to pick from the pool of the governors from the north, Umaru had almost the best credentials, and it was, but it was a highly disciplined person. As I said, relative integrity, credibility.
Right. Well, I mean, that's an era that's
and
gone.
And then, of course, his brother is, I think that the image of Shehu Yar'Adua was always on Obasanjo's mind, when
But now that you look back with hindsight, given all the things that have happened, do you think the suggestion of your caucus of El-Rufai was politically naive, or as Obasanjo reportedly said, because Obasanjo, I understand, said it was politically naive of you, or was it strategically bold on your part? I mean,
like he told us, he said he knows El-Rufai more than us, so we should,
I mean, we saw the way he referred to El-Rufai later on in his book.
So that was what he,
which is not very complimentary.
Exactly, that he didn't want to be too harsh on him, on Nasiru, and not considering him. So he just kind of said, look, you guys are naive, you don't know what I know about him. And that in any case, the governor's caucus was very powerful, and he needed them, to mobilize support for more. So that again worked against El-Rufai, that it was not a government.
And what was El-Rufai's reaction to all of that? Do you recall?
We took it in our stride.
I mean, himself.
Yes. He didn't feel too. He didn't get the vibes that Obasanjo was going to accept him. I think he had that.
He felt he wasn't going to be. But I mean, that 2006 episode, because you said that he and Nuhu Ribadu at the time were very close, and Nuhu Ribadu was actually pushing his candidacy, El-Rufai's candidacy. So there was no sense at all in your assessment that might have marked the beginning of the personal and political rupture between El-Rufai and Ribadu.
No, not at all.
So when did that rupture occur?
What happened was that the group felt that Umaru, as president, was going to adopt us, the same, that we were going to be with him as president. So it was easy to, it was somebody who could work with, and, so that sense of, is moral success of part of the family and so on. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't a difficult outcome, decision as far as we were concerned.
Right, but what I'm curious to know, because time is going fast, is when did the political rupture between El-Rufai and Nuhu Ribadu occur?
Okay.
What was that? Because I understand there was Bola Tinubu had something to do with it.
Yes. That was how I was making reference to Umaru.
Right.
But Umaru didn't want us near him. I mean, he wasn't well disposed towards us, especially towards El-Rufai, and so that bridge,
right,
destabilized the group, so to say, and then metamorphosed it. It went on to become some kind of victimizing, witch-hunting Nuhu and El-Rufai. So they had to leave the country and go on exile. But so that, I don't want to use the word backfire, but it led to a rise in their political profile, both of them, because of the way they were treated and,
Yes. So I remember some of that because, there were a lot of probes and things
exactly.
against them. Yeah.
So Bola Tinubu then, he was a kingmaker. He had left as governor of Lagos State in 2007. He wanted to support or sponsor somebody since it was viewed as a turn of the North. He wanted to support a member of the younger generation from the North, whom he could support, put his own Southwest support behind.
Right.
And then so he did a public opinion survey. Nobody knew, did it? I'm sure everybody didn't know. So the result of the opinion clearly favored Nuhu Ribadu. The opinion poll, Nuhu got 45%, El-Rufai 7%, and so on and so forth. So it was on that basis that Tinubu reached out for Nuhu and adopted him as a candidate.
Yes, he became the presidential candidate of that, the ACN.
Exactly, but I think that was when the bad blood set in, with Nasiru, that the rating kind of elevating Nuhu above him. And I think he never really got out of that disappointment.
Right, but then he subsequently became governor of Kaduna State and all the rest of it. I mean, two-term governor. I mean, surely that would have sated whatever,
it didn't get right.
Ego there was, bruised ego.
No, it didn't get right. And of course, if you compare the two of them, he had an upper hand by becoming the governor of Kaduna State for 8 years, while Nuhu was languishing in political wilderness, so to say. And then 2023 came, Nuhu solidified his relationship with Tinubu. He had become his confidant, all through that period. Of course, when Nasiru was governor. You remember the saga of the ministerial nomination.
Yes.
Tinubu had already appointed Nuhu as NSA, which was a very powerful position, and then El-Rufai thought he was going to be made minister, and he would have become a powerful minister, and then something happened.
Yeah.
And I think that was a stroke.
And El-Rufai basically felt that Mr. Ribadu had something to do with it.
Yeah. He then began having what, to me, seemed like an obsession.
Right.
With Nuhu Ribadu, almost every time finding a way to link him with whatever problems that he had. I thought, as a matter of fact, that was why I don't like talking about some of these things that we had done together.
Right.
But I think that things had gone too far.
And that's why it was important for you to come out and speak.
Yeah, I think
I want to thank you very much indeed for that. Akin Osuntokun is the former political advisor to President Obasanjo and former Director General of the 2023 Labour Party Campaign Council. Really good to see you.